Peace, family. It's your boy Brandon McCrae, aka Bmac Music, coming to you with another installment of Wisdom on Wednesday. Today we'll conclude our study on prayer. We'll begin reading Matthew chapter 6, verse 13, the latter clause, but we will specifically be reading today from the HCSB version, and it reads, "For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory. Amen." What's interesting about this particular passage is that it is not included in most of the ancient manuscripts, and I was conflicted within me whether I would lift something from this particular text or whether I'd leave it alone. But I believe that there is application to be found in the modern lives of every believer when we include the truths veiled behind the text. So let's lift it today. In poring over a myriad of theologians and scholars, we recognize and realize that the latter part of this verse is considered a doxology. What is a doxology? That word there, doxologia, doxa, two word parts. Doxa means glory and logia means saying. So essentially, a doxology is a liturgical expression of praise to the triune God. They consider this particular doxology borrowed from 1 Corinthians chapter 29, verse 11. So in context, within the Jewish synagogues, once a prayer was prayed, a doxology was always added. So this custom of adding a doxology in liturgical expression is borrowed by those that would have amalgamated the writings of Matthew here and presented to us Matthew's gospel. Here specifically, D.A. Carson writes this: when we read the prayer that precedes this doxology, we see that there is a unity found in the prayer. In verse 11, we see that the Father's creation and providence provides our bread. And in verse 12, we see that the Son's atonement secures our forgiveness. And then verse 13, we see that the Spirit's indwelling and power assures our safety and our triumph. So what we get in the preceding verses is an allusion to the Trinity. The doxology then is an answer in praise to the triunity or the tripartite nature of the Trinity. So there are three things in true Trinitarian form that I'd like to offer you in the argument of the text today. In this doxology, firstly, we see that there is a dominion found through kingdom. Dominion found through kingdom. That word there, kingdom, is Basileia, which means kingship, sovereignty, authority, rule, especially of God, and both in the world and in the hearts of men. So we see that Christ is attributing dominion to his Father. Though Christ is the king of the kingdom that sits on our heart, we see that there's dominion found as ascribed by Christ to the Father. Secondly, we see not only dominion found in kingdom, but we see dominance found in power. That word there, power, is the word dunamis, where we get our translation of the word dynamite. It is a miraculous power. It is a might. Now, what's interesting is, though you can have dominion in a kingdom, it is only power, as evidenced by the word dunamis, that gives you dominance. You can have a kingdom and be the king of a kingdom, but unless you have the power that undergirds that kingdom, you will never have dominance, even in your levels of dominion. So in kingdom, we see dominion. In power, we see dominance. And lastly, in glory, we see dignity. That word glory is the root word doxa, to which we have the naming of this phrase, doxology. Doxa essentially means honor, renown, glory, especially of divine quality. So Jesus is teaching his disciples to understand and recognize God's dominance, to recognize and realize the power that God has in his dominance, and to see the glory or the dignity found in God through this doxology offered. In conclusion, allow me to leave you with the words of the great African church father Cyprian of Carthage. He says, "Not by words alone, but also by deeds has God taught us to pray, himself praying frequently and entreating and demonstrating what we ought to do by the testimony of his own example." Christ, in the example and model prayer, gives to the disciples and inevitably us how it is we ought to approach God. And in the doxology today, we learn that, as Brandon McCrae would say, prayer plus praise equals the perfect party. Again, this has been your boy Brandon McCrae, aka Bmac Music, coming to you with Wisdom on Wednesday. Y'all do me a favor, like, share, and comment on this video, and let's make something God go viral. And until next week, holla at your boy.
I'm the one that you